This is an SM Media production. Hi everyone and welcome to this week's episode of The Sit Down. I'm Scott McPike, I'm your host, delighted to be here again. This week I'm joined by the true definition of a one-club man, the pride of New Farm, Kilmarnock legend Garry Hay. Gary, thanks very much for coming on, mate. Pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you very much, Scott. That was a nice introduction.
How you doing? You all right?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm doing well. Yourself?
Aye, good, mate. What's been happening? How you been dealing with the current situation we're all in?
Again, like many others, it's just you just have to adapt, don't you, to kind of new things. Obviously, the beginning, kind of March time, we had that major kind of lockdown. It was almost like a reset button for everyone. So,
yeah.
It was weird, obviously. But I was actually still working during that sort of lockdown. My kind of current job, we kind of took things onto a kind of online platform.
Yeah.
So there's a huge amount of work was needing done in the background to make that happen for us. So I was part of a working group that was dealing with that. So I was kept busy with work, and also obviously my eldest boy, he's of school age, so he was doing his schoolwork from home. So it was a wee bit of helping with that as well, which was probably the toughest thing out of everything. Was having to do that. I've got a lot more respect for teachers, that's for sure.
Brilliant. Like, what's, as well as that, like, you're obviously involved with the SFA. Like, what's been your what have you been kind of doing during it? Like, how different's it been?
As I say, I mean, obviously football, normal football is out on a pitch, and there's people around, and part of my job is delivering coach education courses. So immediately when this kind of happened, the whole lockdown, and football was stopped, at all levels. Then we had to kind of get our thinking caps on and how we could try and still help coaches out there. To keep progressing, keep learning, and when we get back onto the pitch, and then they've got the better tools to be able to go and make the players better and give them better experiences. So I thought it was trying to take the kind of level 1 courses to an online platform. That's kind of snowballed into even parts of the B licence and A licence courses being delivered via online. So it's been good, actually. It's been great to be part of the kind of working group to try and develop these courses to an online platform, and then even deliver the courses online has been good. The feedback's been good by the people on the courses.
Brilliant news. Just as well, you were obviously at Kilmarnock on Sunday. What was that like, just to be at a stadium with no fans?
Oh, that was brilliant. It was great just to be at a game. I said that to Gavin and the other guys that were taking it. I said it's just brilliant to be here. They says, you don't find it weird because there's no fans? And I says, yes, obviously it is, but I was used to obviously playing. We played lots of closed door matches, whether it's pre-season or it's just during the season. You would play a team and they'd be closed door. And for me, when I go to football, I watch the game, and obviously the atmosphere adds to it. And fans are sorely missed, there's no doubt about that. But it was just great to be back in the stadium and and watching real football, if you want to call it that.
Brilliant, definitely. We'll start off. Just talk about your early years, kind of growing up. Like, obviously, you grew up in New Farm. What was your kind of family life like in early school days?
It was great. I stayed in New Farm, obviously, kind of all my days till I kind of flew the nest, and it's fantastic. Stayed there with my mum and dad and the 2 elder brothers. So it was great family life in that sense, and just the area I grew up in, lots of friends that are still my best friends to these days. So it was fantastic, and we had the New Farm Law pitch, which was literally a 2-minute walk from me around there, and my memories of growing up there is us being down there the whole summers. If we weren't there, we were down the Jimmy, as it's called. That's now the William McCoist campus, and the school sits on. We used to play football, and that's what our summers entailed, being there, or venturing over to the K Park to go to the pitch and putt and things, you know. So lots of great memories of growing up in that area.
Brilliant. Obviously, when did you start kind of playing football? It was the boys' club days. Like, who was your first kind of boys' club?
My dad, he used to help out at New Farm under 10s. He helped coach there, Benny Fraser.
Right.
So I was only 7 at the time, and the boys were under 10. So I would go and train, and I would go and train with them all the time, and then I would go and play as well in the matches. But because obviously I was always quite slight and quite small, and the boys were always way bigger than me, so I wouldn't get a lot of game time. Back then it was 11-a-side as well, you know, so it was a bit mental when you think about that. But, you know, 7-year-old, and I would get 10 minutes here or 15 minutes in a game here or there when I was 7-year-old at under 10s, and I did that until that group of players went up to, I think it was under 12s. Yeah. And then, you know, Benny and my dad's like, right, we need to get you back to going playing at your own age group, because boys are starting to get really big now, you know, and they're going to trample all over you. So it was brilliant. It was a great experience. When I think about it now, I definitely think that helped mould me in the early days as a player, about you know, having to deal with players who are bigger and stronger, and you know, you have to be a wee bit smarter in the head to combat that at times.
Definitely. As well as that, you also grew up a Kilmarnock fan. Like, who were your kind of heroes when you were growing up?
It would be, the main one was Tommy Burns. There's no doubt about that. It was just, he came to Kilmarnock at the right time for me in regards of age I was. So you're really aware. You know, I idolised Tommy Burns. I just thought he was an unbelievable player, a great leader. Just a fantastic player. But there was loads of players around that, even like Bobby Williamson. I can remember going down to Rugby Park and Bobby would be playing up top, and thought he was a great player. And kind of latterly Ali Mitchell as well. You know, the Ballingery Bull, as he's known as. What a player Billy was as well. I loved him. Just all action. So no, some great players over the years that I got to see, but Tommy was definitely the kind of main one.
Brilliant. And obviously, like, when you were coming through boys club and that, you signed for Kilmarnock when you were 14. Just talk us through kind of how that came about and how the kind of scouting process worked.
Well, the scouting process was essentially, it was my French teacher who took the James Hamilton school team that I played in, and he was a huge Kilmarnock fan. He was a Kilmarnock shareholder as well, Mr. Thompson. And sadly not with us anymore. He passed away a number of years ago. But he had obviously had me for the school team and must have liked what he'd seen, and he had informed, you know, Alan Robertson, and it was wee Jimmy Clark at the time, and Stuart McLean, who were the main coaches. So he got me in a trial with Kelly then. So you played with your boys club. So at that point I had been playing with Chris House Boys Club, and so you went and trained maybe once or twice a week. And you played your games for your boys club team in the weekend. So fantastic. I loved it. I loved, you know, obviously I was a Kelly fan, so getting to almost call myself a Kelly player at that age was a great experience.
And obviously there'd been YTS in those days, wasn't it?
You know, again at 14 I signed what was known as a schoolboys form for Kilmarnock at that point, and again, even thinking about that, that's what a special day that was, because Tommy Burns was the manager of the club at that time. He came to the school. He came to the school, and I signed this with the head teacher present and my dad present as well. And my mum still has the picture up in the wall from that day. So I'm this wee spotty 14-year-old. Thankfully, it's in black and white. But a wee spotty 14-year-old, and Tommy Burns came to my school and signed me. I remember my big brother taking me down the town to buy me a new jacket because Tommy Burns was coming to sign me for the school at the school. So that was an amazing memory. I remember signing, and you know, I was obviously really shy and quiet, and you know, and Tommy Burns just says to me, he says, "Remember, son," says, "everything you do, you represent Kilmarnock Football Club. You don't let yourself down." And I was like, yes, sir.
Brilliant.
You know, I was terrified, but it was definitely something that stuck with me for sure.
Brilliant. Was there any other clubs looking at you, or was it just Kilmarnock?
It was probably, I had offers to go and train Dundee United. I went up to train at Rangers once as well, but I was quite a shy wee guy, and I didn't enjoy it at all when I went there. To be fair, they were training in Blaze as well, which I had never really experienced before. Being an Ayrshire boy, I know it was quite common up in the Glasgow areas, but there wasn't any Blaze pitches in Ayrshire. I remember one being in Sturton, and I absolutely detested playing on it. So I didn't quite enjoy that experience. Dundee United, I wasn't really interested because I was training with the team that I wanted to be with anyway. So I was delighted with that. Probably more latterly, after I had signed the schoolboy forms, I played the Chris House football team that I played with had folded, and then I moved to Valspar.
Right, okay.
Down there as a boys' club, and we had a really good team, to be fair. We had a lot of boys that, when we turned 16, a lot of us managed to go into kind of professional clubs, and at that point, under 14s, under 15s, we went down south and played a couple of games. We went down to Oldham actually, and we played their academy team, and we beat them 10-0 or something like that. So, and Joe Royal was there, the Oldham manager as well. Off the back of that, he wanted a half a dozen of us to go back down when we were about 15 and train, and I was already signed with Kilmarnock in the schoolboy form, so I wasn't allowed to do that. But again, I wasn't too worried about that. Another one was probably the one that I was gutted about was we also had a Liverpool scout that had asked for a couple of the boys. They'd asked for 3 of us. I was one of them, and another boy, Robert Vincent, and Stuart Conley was another boy, and asked them to go down to Liverpool and train with them when they were about 15. And I was gutted. I'm not going to lie, I was gutted that I didn't get that opportunity to go, but because I know that would just have been a great experience. That was kind of where it was.
Who was in that Valspar team? There
was nobody that then went on to actually carve a professional career, unfortunately. But there was myself and Robert Vincent who ended up going in full time at Kilmarnock in the YTS team. And Robert actually did make 1 or 2 first team appearances for the club under Williamson, but then get sort of released when he was around 20-year-old. But the other guys, 3 of them actually ended up signing for Oldham full time when they were 16 and moved down there, but it never worked out for any of them. I think a couple come back up the road. Another boy, Lee, he ended up going down to London and sort of playing semi-pro, and I used to hear from him back and forth. I used to get a phone call every couple of years from him. So last time I spoke to him, he was gas fit, and he was also a semi-pro player down in the London area. So no, there was a lot of good boys, and as I say, we had a good team at that point.
Brilliant. Just talk a bit about your YTS days as well, because every player I've spoke to that went through that said it was the best time of their life. Like, would you agree with that?
100%, yeah, I would actually. It's weird. YTS in those days, in my days, was nowadays what they do with the kind of young players. They invite teams of young players in, so they'll maybe take a whole under-18 squad into full-time football. But in those days, I think, the way the structures of first teams were, there was more experienced players, bigger squads. So it probably not allowed for maybe 3 or 4 of what they would deem the sort of better players in that young squad to be offered YTS kind of thing. So I come through the YTS, as I say, with Robert and Alex Burke. Another one, Gary McCutcheon. Don't know if you remember Gary McCutcheon as well, and Stuart Davidson, who went on to forge a good career in the junior game.
Heard the name.
So we were it was a sort of 4 of us mainly, with the YTS days, and it was just brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. The downside it was quite often we didn't get to train. See if Rangers or Celtic were coming at the weekend, that we wouldn't train that week because we would be out. Gus Hollis, who was the head groundsman at the time, hard taskmaster, had us out, and we'd be cleaning seats, we'd be cleaning the bird shite off all the seats, and we'd be moaning about that. An 18,000 seater stadium, and they had us cleaning, trying to get us to clean nearly every seat in the stadium. I thought, there's not going to be 18,000 here. How can we not clean them all? How can we not get to train? And it was great fun because, as I say, Gus was a real hard taskmaster, and he'd be chasing us about, and we'd be hiding, and you had some great characters. You've got, Mark Gallagher, who's now the head's groundsman there. Gal was on the ground staff and was a brilliant guy. He had an old guy, Danny, from his house, who again helped Gus. Danny was, God, I don't know what age Danny must be now. He must be closer to 80, but when I was going through the YTS, he looked about 90. He looked so old, but what a guy he was. Absolutely brilliant. And great, just so funny, Danny. And he liked a couple of cans here and there, and you could sometimes he had the dungarees on, and he'd be doing the white lines for the pitch, and he'd have a can of Miller down the inside of these dungarees.
Brilliant.
And then you would look down the line after he's finished, and the lines like that, it's all wavy. He's done. Honestly, what a man, an amazing guy. So the YTS days generally were some of the funniest days that we had, and brilliant guys that I did the YTS with as well.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, though, you were kind of there for 7 years before you made your debut. Like, who were your kind of mentors, like in the playing wise? Like, who were the kind of coaches that were helping you at the time?
Well, the coaches once I went into Kilmarnock, it was Alan Robertson was the kind of head coach, and Stuart McLean was another one. Paul Clark again was kind of out coaching at that point as well, and probably alongside Robbie and Stuart, probably the main one for me was Jimmy Clark. I remember Jimmy Clark was taking us when I was training at under 13s and 14s, and then by the time I was in YTS, Jim was also in as an assistant manager to Bobby eventually. So I'd probably say Jim was a fantastic coach and a real good mentor in that sense for us all, and as was obviously Alan Robertson and Stuart McLean, two great guys, and learned so much from them coming through.
Mm-hmm. And as well as that, like youth team days, like what was the kind of memories for them? Like,
again, just always kind of related to the YTS, but youth team days were great as well. Like, again, we had some good wee players there. Alex Burke was a fantastic footballer, obviously part of the '97 cup winning team alongside David Bagan. David Bagan was just kind of half a year older than us, so he'd already completed the YTS scheme. But Burke, what a player he was, unbelievable. And my memories are the youth team games was that really. It was, we could play games sometimes, and I remember we played, I think it was Hearts up at Newton Grange Stars Stadium. It was that we played them in a youth game, and Burke was absolutely rotten for about 80 minutes. 80 minutes just rotten, and we were drawing the game, and then he just had the last 10 minutes of the game, he just had magic, and he scored a couple of goals, or he definitely scored one, and then maybe set up another one, just with with brilliant trickery and brilliant skill. And on his day, he was just an amazing player, and he's one of the best that I've played with. Anyways, he was so talented, and he'll tell you himself, probably didn't fulfil it as well as what he should have.
Mm-hmm. So obviously, that's, I always said that, like, obviously, like, he done pretty well, but he could have done probably a bit more. But like, as well as that, like, I just want to touch on, like, it took, like, as I said, like, it took you 7 years to make your debut. Was there worries that you were never going to get that first team chance?
Definitely. Again, I was 18. I was the same age as Burke, and it was the same age as David. When Bobby took over from Alex Totten, and everybody within, we were in the reserve team at that point, and Bobby was the reserve team manager, and I could see that Burke and Beggy were ready to be pushed into that first team level. Alex Totten was the manager at the time, and quite honestly, he was too loyal to some players who, weren't good enough for him. And what the team needed, they needed that wee injection and a bit of youth and a bit of freshness to it. Yeah. And that's basically what Bobby done. He took over the job, and Burke and Beggy were playing from there on in, and it helped a good set of players. It just gave them another push and another bounce. And that was tough, because obviously I was a similar age, come through it, particularly with Burke, came through the kind of youth levels with them, and I was so happy for him and so delighted for him, and just wanted that for myself.
Yeah, definitely.
And, you know, I just had to be much more patient, and you were going year to year after you become a kind of young professional out of YTS. I was going for a 1-year contract, thinking, I'm not in the first team here, I'm not going to get a contract here. And then, you know, Bobby's like, I see something in you, blah, 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 keep working hard. You know, there's another year. And I kind of had a couple of years of that before eventually I got an opportunity. So it was really tough, for being honest. It was really tough. But again, there was a lot of good players in around the club at that point. Dylan I speak to Dylan Kerr quite a bit, and he was brilliant to talk to. And you know, he was more experienced, and you know, he gave me good bits of advice. And you know, as I say, the dressing room itself was brilliant. A lot of experienced players that had been round the block that were very helpful.
And just like obviously, like when we get to your debut, like you nearly go on loan to Queen of the South. Like, do you remember that? And how, like, what was it? Were you worried about? Were you kind of wanting to go there or to get first team football? Or?
I was wanting to play, that's for sure, because again, back then you played reserve team football, and reserve team football was actually a good challenge because I would be playing with. I played with Monty a few times. You know,
how good was he? How good was he to play alongside?
Monty was just a brilliant defender.
And
again, I don't think he'll feel hurt if I say on the ball he wasn't the greatest, but there was nobody better than defending it than Monty. You know, his nickname was Ditcher, last ditch tackle, and it was his timing in the tackles, his reading of the game in those moments, absolutely fantastic, and he really looked after himself. You know, he was a real athlete, and again another great role model for a young player coming through at the club.
So in Queen of the South, like obviously that doesn't happen, but what was the kind of memories when Bobby Williamson tells you that you're going to play against Rangers, because it was Dylan Kerr and Martin Baker get injured?
So the loan was agreed with Queen of the South. I actually played for them in a friendly game down at Largs. They had a Sunday game against Kilmarnock Rangers, and I went and played in it, and then I was back in training on Monday. And I think it was a Tuesday. Dylan was injured. Dylan had a lot of trouble with his groins at that stage in his career, where he was just a lot of pain, and I think it ended up being kind of osteitis pubis that he had, which is quite a sore one. And Bakesy was obviously in, and then I can't remember if it was the Monday or the Tuesday at training, but Bakesy broke his thumb, essentially in training. So then I think it was a Wednesday morning. For sure, we were in all week that week, because obviously it was coming up to the first game of the season, and Bobby pulled me in the Wednesday morning. He says, right, I've cancelled your loan to Queen of the South. You're playing at Ibrox Saturday. And I'm like that. All right, okay, great. And that was it. And then I left his office, and then we went to train. So from sort of the Wednesday to the Saturday, it became Bobby was working on his shape and his patterns and, you know, set pieces, etc. from kind of Wednesday onwards. So I knew I was playing from Wednesday, so that was a good thing, because it just helped me kind of process that in my head. I was desperate to play. Obviously, there's nerves like any time, any game you're nervous. But then I was just kind of focusing, right, just do your best, and you know that, do your best and hope that's good enough, basically.
Brilliant. And what was the nerve process like? What was the process like from Wednesday to the Saturday? Like, just how nervous were you?
I was nervous. There's no doubt about that. But again, you know, always had nerves before a game. It's hard to remember if I was more nervous then. Probably would have been, of course. In my head, in any game that I went into, I always just tried to say to myself, just start well. If you get an early touch of the ball, make sure that you find a teammate nice and early. And even if that's a 5-yard pass, that's just enough to settle you into the game. So that's what I always try to do in most games, where just try and settle into the game, make a nice simple pass, don't make any mistakes, particularly when you play the further back you play, then you make a mistake, invariably it can cost the team a goal. So I was conscious of that. So just play myself into the game, and that's what I tried to do. So, you know, it was a wonderful experience, to be fair.
And obviously, when you come out that day against Rangers, like what's that atmosphere like especially for somebody so young? Like what does that atmosphere do to you?
Oh, it was amazing. And again, I can still the memories of walking out at Ibrox are probably my favourite, to be honest. Because again, I think it might have been fortunate or unfortunate, however you want to look at it, of playing Rangers in the first day of the season when they'd actually won the league. So I think they'd won the league that season previous.
They did, That was Advocaat's first season,
so you can imagine the place is absolutely bouncing. First game of the season, jam-packed Ibrox. We're lined up in the tunnel, ready to go out. Myself and Freddie Dindal, who actually made their debuts that day. First team debuts. Freddie was a new signing in the summer, so Freddie barely spoke a word of English as well. And he was playing behind me. I was a wing back that day, and Freddie played left of a three. It was good, and just the noise when you walk out, and just the noise, it's just so loud. And I can remember in that game and many other games, see when you're trying to shout to a teammate that's 15 yards away and he can't hear you. So it's brilliant. I love that, and it's certainly one of the parts of the game that you miss is those big atmospheres.
Big games, definitely. You lose 2-1 in the first game, but obviously it must have been a great feeling to play in your debut. Like, who were you up against that day? Like, who was your director?
I was up against Claudio Arena, actually, who scored the winner, and who lost me, who I lost, sorry, for the goal as well. But again, they're a fantastic team. He was a good player, obviously. Really good player. So I was playing wing back, I think, that day, and Ali Mitchell was playing sort of in front of me as well, like in the inside a wee bit. So again, having somebody like Ali Mitchell in front of you who you know is going to work so hard was helps. So I thought overall I had a decent debut. I had a good game, but I get done for the second goal. I think it was Ali Mitchell. Rangers scored first, and then Ali Mitchell got an equaliser, and then Claudio Arena scored. They did a sort of wee kind of 1-2 at the edge of the box around me, and I just oversold myself. That way I thought I was going to get it from, and he's popped it inside, and he was away, and he did kind of tidy finish by Big Marsh, I think it was. So I kind of done for the goal, but I thought overall I had a kind of decent game, and I think Bobby was happy with me, fair, because he never slaughtered me for the goal part.
If Bobby was happy with your first game, he'll be delighted with your second game. Do you remember your second game for Kilmarnock?
Yeah, I do for sure. Obviously, it's sort of ingrained in the memory of managing to notch a couple of goals.
2-0 against Aberdeen, and you scored both goals. How good a feeling was that?
Oh, that was surreal, to be honest. And again, if you remember, I think it was Marco that maybe spoke to the press after the game, and he's like, "Listen, we're shocked that Gary's managed to score 2 goals because he didn't even score in training." He wasn't kind of far wrong with that one. Crazy, to be fair, and it was one of the games. Again, I was playing wing back that day. Aberdeen weren't a great lot, if you want to call it that season. I think he might have finished quite low down in the league, if not bottom that year, and were saved by reconstruction or whatever. I'm not sure if it was that season.
I think you're right, actually.
But fantastic, great memories. I can still remember both goals, particularly the first one, actually won goal of the month that year and that season, and sports scene or whatever it was called back then. That was a good wee proud moment. And the second one, I managed to score with my right foot of all things for about 25 yards. At, I don't know what the goalie was doing, to be honest. You could have probably tied a bib to the crossbar and it would have saved it, but he never managed to.
Were you always a left back?
No, I was. Again, funnily enough, my old boys club managers, Davy Love and Jack McGovern, used to give Alan Robertson pelters, because when I used to play with Chris House and Valspar, I was either left wing, left midfield, centre midfield, up front, and scoring a barrel load of goals. And then, to be fair, I was in it Kilmarnock as a young player as a midfielder.
Yeah.
And then there was one game, I think it was under 16s, under 17s, under 18s friendly, I can't remember when exactly, and Roby put me to left back. somebody get injured, I think it was, and I went to left back, and basically he kept me there for then on after, because it was, I had good energy levels and I loved to get forward. Not so much at defending, but I loved to get forward, and we obviously seen something in me there that he liked, and I stayed there from then on in, and didn't really get a sniff in midfield until kind of laterly in my career.
And just as well as that, like obviously, like I've had Mark and Alan in the show and things like that, and I always ask them about who were the characters in that team. Like what was the team spirit like, and who were the kind of good characters in that team, in your mind?
God, there's so many. They're said kind of coming through, like, obviously Durrant and McCoist are.
Aye.
Everybody knows in the main ones, but there's so many good professionals. Gus McPherson, Money, but what a professional. Learned so much from him about the game and how to look after yourself on a football pitch.
Yeah.
As I said earlier, Dylan Kerr was really good to speak to. Holty used to look after me a wee bit. When I stayed in New Farm, Holty stayed round the corner for me, and he would pick me up, because a lot of time I would get the bus to Rugby Park, and I would walk or whatever, and Holty would pick me up and take me, and he was a brilliant guy. And Gordon Marshall, Kevin McGowan, Hoodie, lots of just great people that looked after you, and just played and looked after themselves in the right way as well, which was a good lesson. Although liked to party hard as well at times, so it was a sort of good balance. So there was so many good people.
Brilliant. Obviously, like during that season, you're in and out the team. You don't play. You don't play between December and May. Do you remember why that was?
I was trying to think that actually. I was trying to think. I definitely picked up some injuries. A couple of times in my career, I had done my ankle ligaments.
Right.
And quite badly. So I think that there was a period then where I was out for maybe a couple of months with ankle ligament damage. And that kind of kept me out the fold as such, and then kind of managed to get back in at a kind of latter stage of that season. I remember playing the sort of first 4 games. So we played Rangers, then Aberdeen, and I think we might have played St Johnstone in the Cup, and I'd get man of the match in that game as well. And we played the next one, and I think we get beat. And then Bobby had pulled me in. He says, "Listen, you've done great. I'm really pleased with you." Although he started that conversation with saying, "I thought I made a mistake giving you a new contract after that game in pre-season." We played a game in pre-season over in Germany against this second division German team, and I got an absolute roasting off this. There was a wee Iranian guy playing who was unbelievable, and then I had a 6'2" German wide player against me, so I got an absolute doing off of these pair. And Bob was like, "I thought I'd made a mistake giving you another year, but I didn't. You've done brilliant." He says, "But I'm just going to take you out of the team now and get Martin back in," and blah blah blah. And I was a bit annoyed because we'd lost one game, and maybe I wasn't even what I'd been the previous 3, but again, Martin was a new signing, so Bobby was probably thinking, there's a wee bit of justification to try and for your signings to give them an opportunity as well, and so makes you get back in. But that's football sometimes.
Obviously, the season after that, like Bobby puts a lot of faith in you and kind of gives you a run in the team, and you solidify a place. Like how good was it that Bobby had that faith in you?
It was great. Bobby was really good at. He liked working on the defenders, which is funny as a striker. He was big on. He was big on the back 4 being organised and structured. So we did a lot of work in the training ground based around that, and that helped me a lot. Because I was a forward thinking fullback. I wasn't strong in 1v1s, so these types of things. So I was always trying to play against the opponent thinking, right, I want to try and make you defend against me rather than me having to defend against you, because I know I'm not that good at it. But he really helped with understanding how to be part of a back 4, but distances for your centre backs, what you do in these types of situations. So it was really good. I think that season we actually might have went in a wee run where we kept loads of clean sheets for about, I think it was about 8 to 12 games we went in a run where we kept lots of clean sheets in those games, and picked up a lot of victories.
Was the highlight of that the 3-0 win at Ibrox?
Yeah, it was certainly one of them. Do you know, I remember us going up to St Johnstone actually and keeping a clean sheet, and that would have been a tough game. But the Ibrox game was brilliant, obviously. Funnily enough, I seen it on Twitter the other day there. I think it was 20 years ago or something, just the other day there. And again, looking back at the Rangers team then, you know, you're thinking, wow. But I do remember before that game, I think Rangers were in crisis basically because they had lost a league game and then they'd lost a Champions League game. You're thinking they're in crisis because of that. But you could see it in the players. You know, you could see that when things weren't coming off for them, you know, in the game, there's that kind of wee drop of confidence in their level kind of thing. And we just took advantage of that, and we were solid. And, you know, we done them in the counter-attack really well. And Andy McLaren that day actually was exceptional. You know, Andy was a really good player. And I thought he was exceptional that day. That certainly helped us to the victory.
Definitely. And just as another game I want to touch on for that season, obviously, like, it must have been an honour for you to come out for your boyhood team in a cup final at Hampden. You've come up against Celtic. How good a team were they, and what was the kind of feelings going into that game?
Celtic were really formidable that season. You know, big team. You know, big, physical, imposing team with somebody like Henrik Larsson, who maybe not at the time was seen as a world-class player, but once people seen him go and do what he did for Barcelona and Man United, they thought, wait a minute, he was actually a world-class player. He was
definitely,
a tremendous footballer, great finisher, so intelligent, so smart and tough as well, to be fair to him. And with him, and you know, you had Chris Sutton, who was a fantastic footballer, John Hartson, you know, the guys at the back that they had were just man mountains. They were a really strong and physical and imposing team. And going into the game was weird because we went down to Seamill for a couple of days before the game. And that was kind of par for the course for cup finals or games that the teams would maybe do that. And we did a bit of training, but not a hell of a lot of training. And nobody knew the team. Bobby certainly gave no indication to me that I was going to be playing. He gave no indication to many others. I roomed with Hoodie in that one, and me and him are thinking, I'm definitely not playing. You know, I know that for sure. You know, I had no inkling I was going to play. I'd been out of the team, then kind of come back in. I think I'd played up at Tynecastle previous to that cup final. It was maybe their game before, and I'd played in that. Did okay, but we'd lost the game as well. Sure, I was thinking that it would go with Bakesy. And then 2:15, we go into Hampden, and he names his team and he names his subs. And I'm like, geez, I'm playing. You know, which is quite mad when you think about it for a cup final. Probably know a wee bit more work done. We did do shaping and things, but it was like he was moving players all over the place, so he didn't have a clue, you know, who was going to be playing. So that was kind of mad. It was kind of flung upon you that you're playing, and so I was delighted. We started the game brilliantly. I think it's been well documented. Durrant obviously played, but Durrant's knee was in a real bad way by that point. You know, and he was wrapped in cotton wool for the game, and he came out and he ran the show for 30 minutes. I think, though he was in midfield for Celtic. It must have been Lennon, Lambert and Petrov perhaps.
Yeah, it would have been,
And Durrant ran that game for half an hour, 35 minutes. He was on the pitch, but then he just couldn't sustain it, and he had to go off. And it changed the game. And I know Celtic lost. Maybe Sutton they get sent off. Can't remember who, but I know they got a player sent off, and thinking, God, we have got a chance now. But Celtic, when we lost Durrant, that was a much bigger loss.
Definitely.
Them going down to 10 men, it really was. And we just couldn't cope with our power and our strength and their speed, to be fair, and we were well beaten in the day.
Obviously, later on, you scored against Rangers. Like, did you enjoy playing against the Old Firm? And like, who were the hardest players you come up against in that kind of?
I loved playing against in the big games. Playing against the best players, because you knew that was a real test. Your level had to be so high. Fantastic players on both sides. We kind of spoke about all the kind of Celtic ones there, like Lambert, Petrov, Larsson, obviously. Amazing players. Rangers at that point, a kind of big Dutch influence.
Aye.
And so, Ronald de Boer, what a player he was.
Aye.
Unbelievable. He had the best nutmeg I've ever seen ever. On big Chris Innes at Ibrox one time. Oh, absolute belter, right in the halfway line. Big Chris is running in like a train to the side, and the Boer's not even facing him, and then just pops it through his legs. Oh, I was actually running back in with myself laughing at that point. He was an absolute belter. He was a great player. I loved Van Bronckhorst as well. So obviously, I was a left back at that point, and he played either midfield or left back for Rangers. And I just looked at him and thought, oh, "What a player you are! Just so cultured, great engine on him." And again, to have a career at Barcelona and Arsenal, so that tells you the type of player he was and how good he was. So I so many, and that was, that's a privilege to play against those types of players. And don't forget, probably one of our own, and Scottish, and Barry Ferguson.
Yeah, definitely. Must have just been class to play against these players, like especially like when you're just 2 years you've been through and you're playing against like Larson, Hearts, and Sutton players like that. It must have been a tremendous feeling.
It was great. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, at the time I didn't really think much about it. You're focusing on the game. These players are really good and really big, but if you go into games in awe of those type of characters, then you're in big trouble. Don't get wrong, there was time we had some heavy defeats at both Ibrox and Parkhead because they were incredibly strong that time. I know there's always a gulf between the Old Firm and the rest of the league, but at that point, Rangers and Celtic, if you're thinking about wages and the players that they could attract compared to a Kilmarnock or Motherwell, etc., then the gulf was bigger then, I would have said, than it is nowadays.
Definitely. Obviously, like Gary Holt goes to Norwich, and you're kind of linked there too. Like, how good a player was Gary Holt to play alongside, and like, how did the kind of near move come about for you?
Holty was great. As I say, Holty used to pick me up and stuff like that, and he was a brilliant guy. Holty was excellent at breaking the play up, and he box to box. There was so much energy in the middle of the park, and that's, I can see why obviously that was an attraction. A good physicality about him. He wasn't a get on the ball and spray passes about type of midfielder. He was breaking the play up, getting the ball to maybe the more creative players, but he would then get himself in the box and get himself on the crosses and these types of things. So Holty was brilliant at that. He was really good. His timing into the box was good. The move, in regards to the move, it was a strange one. Bobby had pulled me into the office and said that, by the way, Norwich are interested in you. They've made a bid. The club's accepted it. And I'm like, all right, okay. So it was Bobby, and Ian Welsh was the chief executive at the time.
Right, okay.
And pulled me in, and I'm like, all right, okay. I says, where's Norwich? And I have a clue, I'm a guy from New Farm. How am I meant to know where Norwich is? And so Ian Welsh said, this is Norwich, brought up Norwich in the website or the internet or whatever it would have been in those days, and said, this is Norwich, this is a club, blah, blah. I says, all right, okay. So as I said, Bobby says, this was a Friday I get pulled in. Said, club's accepted the bid for you. Speak to your agent, and I spoke to Nigel Worthington that Friday as well. He says, Norwich managers want to speak to you, so we put him on. And I said, hello, Mr. Worthington, it's Garry Hay here. And he says, hi, Gary. He says, we had so much good reports about you. He says, we've been up watching Gary for a number of months now. The scout's been raving about you as well. You're the type of player that I'm looking for, blah, blah, blah. I want you to come down on Monday. First thing, we'll show you around the stadium and show you the training complex, blah, blah, and we want to get you signed up. And I says, right, okay. So I phoned my girlfriend, who's now my wife at the time, to tell her. And it was a whirlwind, to be fair, because I was unsure, if I'm being honest. And actually, I was like, oh, wait a minute, I was almost like, what have I done wrong type thing. And then, obviously Bobby, once I'd thought about it and I went home that night, I spoke to my girlfriend, and then phoned my agent as well. And he says, right, that's fine. He says, I'll book the flights for us and we'll go down on Monday morning and speak to them. I says, right, okay, that's fine. Kind of looking forward to it now. Once you get your head around it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Saturday after, so Bobby says, you're not playing tomorrow. Says, don't want you getting injured. And Scotland, it would be a big move for you, and it's a good move for the club and the girls to get money. I says, right, okay. I was wanting to play, but it was the right decision because my head was pickled, to be fair.
Yeah.
And then the Saturday pulled me in after the game. Says, Norwich have pulled out. Says, they've now saying that they can't afford you. They've pulled out the deal. And I'm like, all right, okay, what's happened? He says, well, that's just telling us that they've not got the money there. They're not going to go through with the deal, and that's that, the deal's off. So that was that, and it was quite a weird. And I met Bobby actually months ago, and he was like that. He says, can't believe you didn't go to Norwich, you turned that move down. And I was like, I never turned it down, Bobby. I says, you pulled me into the office and told me it was off. He's like, did I? All right, is that what happened then, was it? So again, who knows what really happened. Maybe Holt's agent get wind of it and think, they're going to spend that money on him, that'll be right, I'll just get that money for Holt. So who knows what happened, but c'est la vie, such is life. And again, it was pleasing to know somebody else was interested in you, but it was also the club, listen, we love you, etc. No matter what happens, you'll be getting a contract from us as well.
Yeah.
And I end up signing a 3-year deal with the club as well, because probably at that point I thought, well, we've got a bit of an asset here. If teams are interested in him, then let's get him signed up, and we'll see what happens from there. So I was delighted to sign a 3-year deal, because I've been going from here to the next year. At that point, so it worked out well in the end.
Brilliant. Obviously, that season, the season after Bobby leaves and goes to Hibs, just how good a manager was Bobby Williamson for you, and what was your kind of feelings when he left?
I was gutted, to be fair. Again, I remember, I think it was the sort of afternoon. And there'd been wee whispers when we'd been training in the morning, and then I had went and done some gym work, and then come back down. So I was still hanging about, maybe 2:30 or something, and then Jimmy Clark was there. And Bobby come in, he says, I'm away, wee man, I'm going to Hibs. I'm like, all right, okay. So you never really know what to say. I says, good luck. He says, listen, you've done brilliant. He says, next guy that comes in, he'll love you. Just keep doing what you're doing and you'll be absolutely fine, kind of thing. So that was him, and Jimmy stayed for the rest of that week, I think, for the training.
Right.
When Bobby went to Hibs. And kind of took us through that. So I was gutted to see Bobby go, because someone had come through the reserve team with as well. He was a manager on the first team level. Training was good. I liked, some of the defensive stuff that we'd done, and Jimmy Clark and Cabey, Jeremy Cabe were two brilliant assistant coaches as well. Definitely missed them as well. But you get to learn quickly, like probably any walk of life, that new people come in, clean slate, and you've just got new people to impress. And at the end of the day, you're in the game for yourself. You want to be the person that's playing in that team. So, you've just got to refocus and wait for the next person and hopefully impress them.
Obviously, the person that comes in is Jim Jeffries and Billy Brown. What was your feelings with it, when they came in, and what was your kind of first interactions with them?
Early interactions, were fine. It was guys were not going to come in and rip things up and change things immediately. He's had a wee bit of success in the past. We want to get he's better. We want to get more consistent, and we want to keep us up as high as we can in the league. Their way of working wasn't dissimilar to Bobby. It was they wanted to work hard on the training pitch. Wanted you to put 100% into effort into everything that goes on in the training pitch, and the thought process like that for me as well. If you put it in the training pitch, then you hopefully take that into the game. So that was definitely the model and how they wanted the boys to be.
And obviously, you finished 7th that season. Was it? Did he change much? Obviously, I want to ask you. Alan's asked me to ask you about the Viking-Stavanger game. What was your thoughts on that? But what was the kind of memories of that season?
Memories. Well, Viking-Stavanger certainly a memory, that's for sure. So we went over there first leg to play them. Norway obviously had a half decent team. The boy Eric Nevlin was up front for them. He just left Man United. So they were a decent side. Probably what you would expect from a Norwegian team, quite athletic, tall. Before the game, Bobby's saying, right lads, nothing stupid, let's keep it tight, don't make any mistakes, let's play ourselves into this game here. 5 minutes in, I think the goalie or somebody booted a long ball up the pitch towards me. I was playing against another big wide player. I've went to go and win it, and I've slipped. And then the ball's bounced right over me, and this boy ran through and scored. And I just looked over at the bench, and Bobby's like that with an hands, him raging. And I'm like, oh no. So, it just went downhill for there after that as well. So, that was Vikings Stavanger. It certainly wasn't my greatest game, that's for sure. So, Hoodie Loves reminded me of that one.
Brilliant. I said ask him about Vikings Stavanger, and he thought he would come back to that. Just when we touch on that as well, like how good was that experience in the team? Like you'd like Alan Mahood, Andy McLaren, Gordon Marshall, Gary McSwagan was in the team as well. But how important was that experience for that team just as like a togetherness?
Aye. You need, again, I remember Jimmy Nichols saying to me one time when he was in, says you're only as good as your senior pros. Mm-hmm. That's what he used to talk about, and I was fortunate enough to coming through the team, we having some great senior professionals of the game, like Gordon Marshall you've just spoke about there, and Gary McSwagan as well, a fantastic player. So, it was so important to because generally senior professionals run the dressing room for you.
Yeah.
If they're a good lot, those ones are good, and the younger ones tend to follow that example. So no, it was a good group of players. Obviously, Jim and Billy inherited players that maybe in time was ones that they were looking to kind of feed out to get their own players in, and that's like any manager, I suppose, isn't it? And that's generally what happened that season. I think it was maybe about February time that Jim came in, and we probably just weren't, to get that top six, we just weren't consistent enough as simple as that, because we had a decent team, we won some games, but lost some other that we shouldn't lose. Invariably that's what then costs you that top six place. You need a good level of consistency to get there.
Definitely. The season after the 2002-2003 season, you find that you finished fourth. Like, how good was that season? Just because obviously Kilmarnock finishing fourth even then was an amazing achievement. Just what did they do right, like Jim and Billy?
Again, it was probably just getting maybe some quality players on. We had some quality there, but again, they kind of brought in maybe some of their own ones that they're more familiar with as well to try and instill their sort of way of playing as well, and I think that helped. And again, we got that consistency level. We were fairly solid at the back with a good goalkeeper. Big Marsh, I think, was still playing at that point for us. And for me, you can't underestimate the importance of a goalkeeper.
Oh, definitely not. Yeah, definitely.
Finding your team, your goalkeeper, a good centre backs, middle of the park, and if you get a striker who will nick you some goals, for a team like Kilmarnock, if we can get a striker who's going to get into double figures for you, support that with some goals for elsewhere, then you're not going to be far away, and that's invariably what happened for us that season. A good levels of consistency, and it was a successful season for sure.
One player that's coming through at this time is Chris Boyd. I just want to touch on. Could you see then just how good a finisher he was and what he was going to do in his career?
Yeah, aye, absolutely. I mean, again, Boyd, he started to train with us when he was maybe 17, I think. Big daft boy for Turboughton. That's big Boydie. When he first come in. So good personality. Took to that sort of being a young person coming into a mature dressing room, like a duck to water. Had lots of self-confidence, but wasn't arrogant with it.
Right.
He had faith in his ability, and you could see within the training, he had a sharpness with the goals. He's, I think, one of the best players in the country. He was, I think, 17 or 18 when he came through. He was 17 or 18 when he came through. He was 17 or 18 when he came through. He was 17 or 18 when he came through. He was 17 or 18 when he came through. He was 17 or 18 when he came through. He was 17 or 18 when he came through. He was 17 or 18 when he came through. He was 17 or 18 when he came through. He was 17 or 18 when he came through. He was 17 or 18 when he came through. He was 17 or 18 when he came through. He was 17 or 18 when he came through. He was 17 or 18 when he came through. He was 17 or 18 when he came through. He was 17 or 18 when he came through. He was 17 or 18 when he came through. He was 17 or 18 when he came through. his mentality in training was good. You know, he was desperate to score goals even in the wee five-a-side games, or if it was that he was doing, he was concentrated on it, you know, and you know, that's what I liked about him, is he's off the pitch, yes, he could be daft and love to carry on, but on the pitch, in the training pitch, you like to work hard, and you know, he did the same in the games, and he was a fantastic finisher.
Yeah, brilliant. Obviously, the season after, like, it was a poor season. The 03-04, you finished 10th. Like, why did you finish so low? Like, what was going on? Like, how did that? How was it changed from 4th to 10th in the space of a season?
Again, I think that season might have been the season that Big Marsh had left.
Nah, it could have. It probably was.
One or two other experienced boys had left, and then Colin Meldrum had been Marsh's understudy for a long time, but Melly was a wee bit older, but hadn't actually played that many games, and he got his opportunity to go, and you're never going to replace Big Marshall, to be fair. It was always going to be difficult. I think I'm not blaming Big Melly for that. You know, it's Melly, and it's maybe the defenders around that, and the kind of team has lost one or two wee boy players, brought some others in that needed time to gel.
Yeah.
But again, you know, I think there'll be games where, you know, if Big Marsh had been our goalkeeper, perhaps it might have saved us. I'm not saying we would have been in the top 6, but it might not was what we had been, and I think that kind of plays a big part on it, and I think it was something that Jim was trying to fix, at least a season anyway. Because I think Melly, and then the boy, I think it was Francois Duberdeau.
Right, okay, yeah.
Who for me was nowhere near the level that needed to be. Goalkeeper in the Scottish Premier League. He was, to be honest. And that's didn't help us, I don't think. And then collectively that then kind of lowers confidence levels in people and these types of things. You hear it a lot with teams where you talk about, you know, we know we're strong at the back. We're not going to concede today. You know, we've got a real in that, and we know that the attacking players will go and hopefully nick a goal for us. So as well as maybe not being strong at the back, we struggled for goals that season. I don't think, you know, we get a great amount of goals. I'm not sure what Boyd he scored that season. He probably still get his normal quota of goals, but I don't think he was getting much help from elsewhere. Case, you know.
And just as well as that, I want to just touch on this where, like, obviously the thing about Kilmarnock then was they always had a solid back line, like the likes of James Fowler, David Lilly, Dindaloo, Ford, Graham, players like that. Like, who were your kind of favourites to play alongside in the defence?
Dindaloo, Big Freddie, because I say both made their debut at the same time, and Freddie was brilliant. He was great off the pitch as well. Over the years, we've also had lots of foreign players that come into the club, and some they were all great as individuals, but sometimes you just didn't quite get the culture and just didn't quite get it and probably integrate themselves as well as what they should. But Freddie was, you know, he got it, and he became a real legend, a real fan's favourite, and he was fantastic to play with. We had Gordon Greer that come in, who again just needed to build his experience levels. So he was fairly young, down to Blackburn, but hadn't played much obviously, and he just needed to play at a good level to get more experience, and then he became the player that he was. You know, made a good career down in England. He was a good defender. Foul obviously. Kilmarnock stalwart.
You just got on really well.
I got on great with Fow and still do. Fow hated right back though. You know, that's he wanted to get a sniff in midfield, and that's where he ended up staying there because he did so well. But he hated playing right back. You know, it's too close to the touchline for Fow playing right back. You know, ball out to stand for there, whereas in the centre of the park it's much harder. You know, so again, some good players, and it just took time to gel. I don't know when we managed to get Fraser Wright in.
Yeah, he came in. I think he came in that season. Yeah.
Fraser Wright came in for part-time football, and again took a while to adjust. To be honest, the first few sessions I seen him in training, I'm thinking, he's going to struggle because Big Boy terrorised him in training. You know, he was coming short, spinning in behind him constantly, and just, you know, really getting the better of him. But to be fair to Fraser, he really knuckled down. Period of 2-3 months, get his fitness levels up, really looked after himself, got stronger and everything else, and then became a fantastic player for Killie, a real great servant and a real fan's favourite, because he was no nonsense, but he actually get much better on the ball as well, and did excellent. And again, guys like him started to make us look more solid, and he brought Alan Coleman.
That's right, yeah.
Again, another real good goalkeeper. Madman off the pitch.
Is he?
Oh aye, lunatic. Typical goalie, most of them were.
Aye.
But Coleman was a special lunatic, shall we say. So again, but what a goalie, great goalkeeper.
Yeah. What was the kind of stories for the days? Like, is there any classics that stick out?
Good ones that I can share. You get big Nishy's one. Big Colin who came in.
He's been on, he's brilliant, isn't he?
Oh, Nishy is brilliant, so likeable.
Yeah.
Lovely big guy. Just if you said it was black, he would say it was white, just to get an argument going. But loved him to bits. He was great, and one of the funniest things I seen was Nishy kicking himself in the face. Easter Road, ball come into the box, and I think he had his back to goal, and I think he tried to attempt to do like an overhead kick or something, and he kneed himself in the face and had to get treatment physio. Oh, absolutely! What a boy! That was some good nights out, that's for sure.
Just did the team spirit never change? Like, was it always just a good atmosphere like, in the dressing room all through your Killie career?
Aye, it was really. Bobby, Jim, really in the main signing players who they knew they would fit in to the dressing room culture and the way people were, and that's probably, recruitment of players is probably the key thing for any manager.
Definitely, yeah.
Getting the right players and getting the right sorts, and invariably Jim and Bobby and the guys, they got it right most of the time, and you always there'll be ones that slip through the net that don't do quite as well as what you would hope on the pitch.
Yeah.
But really, there was very few. I can't really remember any where you thought I really, really dislike that person. There was nothing really like that at all.
Another player that's coming through at this time that would go on to have a good career was Stephen Naismith. Like, how good was he Nishy said he was quite raw when he was young, but what did you think about him when he first came through?
Aye, I could see what Nishy means by that, because he was a ball of energy. He just needed to learn to kind of slow down sometimes. But what a player! I remember seeing Stephen actually play. I was to hand a trophy. It was Stuart Academy versus another academy, playing in a local schools cup final at Rugby Park. So I had been asked to go along and watch it, and then hand out a trophy, and I think I picked the man of the match as well. And Stephen played that day. Head and shoulders above anyone. Just was like, and I can't remember who I said to. I said, "What a player that boy is!" And I think Roby, I don't know, and he says, "He's one of ours." And I says, "Oh, brilliant! What a player!" And then when he came into the first team environment, again, a wee bit raw, but just a great boy, absolute sponge as well. We trained up in Glasgow at that point, and we would car share it. I would drive most of the time, and it would be myself, Nazy, Boydie, and one or two others over the course of the years. That must
have been a fun car.
Oh aye, aye, good fun. Again, daft as a guy with a good laugh, and Nazy then again, he was a sponge, because he'd want to talk about the game. He'd want to talk about. He said, "What do you think I should do? What are we doing in this situation, Gary? Or what do I need to do this? Blah blah blah." Just a sponge, and I thought, his attitude and desire, second to none. Nobody better. They worked harder than him. It was no shock in the least the career that he's had. I really, really.